Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Devongunsmith Diaries, and today what we've got is a Beretta 690 Black Edition in a trap format, and my job today is to make it a bit more like a sporter. Let's get into this. If you enjoy the content, don't forget, like, subscribe and click the notification bell. So that might sound like a bit of a strange request from a client, but it is nonetheless what I've been asked to do. There are some very sensible reasons behind his request. He's quite a big chap. The trap version has fixed chokes and it has a typical drop of 32 to 42 on the comb, and that's essentially the main difference. So a sporter drop would be 35 to 55 approximately. There are some variations in Beretta's arsenal of this whole Black Edition range, but I'm just going to go for generalizations here. So my client only needs ½ an inch of that, so it's closer to a sporter drop. He likes the weight and the feel of everything, and I said to him, so why do you want to take a perfectly good trap gun? Why don't you just get the stock and, you know, change the stock maybe, or just get hold of a Black Edition sporter? He said, well, that's a funny thing, and this is cogent to where we live. There's not a lot of trap shooting going on in Devon, a lot of sporting. So he said, I got it so cheap. It everything I like about it. He said, it's just a trap gun. He said, so I want the chokes opened up a bit, and I want the comb dropped. That's it. When I started looking into it, I realised that was going to be a very cheap gun. You may have your own views on the Black Edition versus the 686 and stuff like that, but essentially it's a pretty good Beretta. So it's just a matter of making it fit him. So I love the gun, I'm not going to change it. It's my own, it's one of my forever guns. I'm not going to change it. Just do the work, please, Paul. Yeah, of course. That's what I'm here for. So I need to mark up and test this. One of the things I do need to do is test this to see if this finish is a resin oil finish or whether it is a true oil finish, a genuine oil finish. So yes, got to do the chokes as well at the same time. So 2 jobs in one. I get a lot of these type of jobs where it's a Gunfit adjustment and something else. Happens a lot. So we're going to crack on with this. So the first thing I need to do, this is the sacrificial part here. It may be a resin finish, it's hard to tell. Doesn't strike me that it is. Where have I put my wire roll? Right. Yep. I think we're going to be all right. Doesn't matter. I'd have to do it anyway. So it's whether or not I have to use stripping compounds or not. But it looks like we're good. So, butt plate off. Nice standard action. See if I can get you to see that. Yeah, there's a retainer in these type of Berettas. The later Berettas have a retainer. That's that disc in the very bottom there, down there. Not the weight. That's a weight. Which is why I quite often use weights, because they frequently use them themselves. So one job at a time. So for now, I'm going to put the rest in a tray and look at that later. So I have old business cards when I was at different premises, and I just made this stamp up, or got it made, so I can use the back of them to produce basically what is a tag. And customers have noticed that and noticed the number's different on the... Don't use the number on the back of these. It's not the one I use now. Yeah, so this is how I keep tabs on guns. So everything's got a tag with the customer's name, the gun, serial number, job details, and the date it comes in, so that I know. It's not a unique ID number that I can keep on my registry, so I can keep track of guns. This is a common thing I do. So the back of the card is irrelevant, really, but it's just using up an old business card that I've had. Found it invaluable. I always use this system because it's very rarely will you lose track of a gun. Well, this is an interesting situation. Probably going to have to replace the pad as well, because that's how much I've got to chunk off. That takes it to 55 drop at heel. It's only 2mm difference there, so it's just taking off that lump there. Just need to check something though first. So these micro cores, obviously this is a Beretta version, but they're very similar to Cervellati, which is an Italian maker. They will actually grind down. There's no hollow spaces in these. They're foam cores. So I'll need to check with the customer whether I actually just reshape that one to suit, or whether we fit a different pad altogether. That's a question I need to check with him. But yeah, it's not going to affect the way I do this by any means. So when was the last time I did one like this? It was probably on a good high value gun. It was probably the Beretta. No, it was the Perazzi, wasn't it? It was the Perazzi, yeah. On number one. I'm going to do this on my knees because I can't work with the camera in my face. Okay, so that's what it looks like. That's how much I need to chunk off. And it's a grinding wheel or grinding belt job, just to rough that down. And then we'll actually put a radius in there as well. I'll probably mark that up now, actually, come to think of it. So obviously it needs to be 1/2 inch drop here. That's not quite right, is it? This bit you do by eye largely. I just mark it out because I like to know where I'm at with it. Okay, so it's going to be fun, but there we go. So yeah, I've got to put a radius on there similar to the original, something like that. Sorry, this is how close the camera is to the work in order to make it worth even watching. So something like that roughly. So you can see how much I've got to blend it. It is what it is, and it's just how it is to be done. Okay, I need to crack on with this on my knees because it's putting my back out, frankly. But it's not too far off there now, not too bad. Just got to polish out these grinding marks because they obviously stay a bit longer, hence why I needed to leave about 1 millimetre on the top. But we'll be there shortly, but I'll do this off camera now. Okay, so that's now blends nicely there. Blends nicely there, blends nicely there. I've left it a slight bit there because I'm going to have to grind the pad, so I'll end up making some remedial movements there, potentially. You can see that the transition is pretty good now. So now I've got to wet it and then let it dry. I favour using Everclear or methylated spirits for this, although traditionally you would use water, but I find that I can get it to lift. For the first coat of grain sealer, now you can see that in wetting it's almost the colour of the rest of the stock, which is why I use meths, because it wets quickly. Traditionally in the stocking rooms you'd use something like white spirit usually, that evaporates as well, but purely for the purposes of quick demonstration on here, also gets the dirt out. Now I can feel a rough surface where the fibres are rising. So using mess means I can continue straight on using a light shellac. This is French polish, but it's, oh, you need a child to open the locks. Right, the child-proof locks. Anyway. There we go. Don't want that because it's going to pick up all the dust and muck as it goes. Sorry, off the camera. So, there you go. That's the first coat. Now, that, oh, instantly drying. Here it's picking up, I can feel it, little fibres. But I can probably put another pass on that. I'm not going to add oil at this stage because I want to burnish it off with wire wool, and I'll need to let it dry thoroughly for that to happen. Rinse and repeat. Okay, so some minutes have passed, but for you It's as if I've literally just done it. This is the benefit of editing. Okay, so now just start to knock back. So there's a transitional point that's shiny. Got to just blend that back in, otherwise it'll be flipping obvious. Right, you can't see it, but you may be able to hear it. I am actually picking up the fibres quite well there. In fact, I can quite safely say with a fine grit, I can just lightly sand that. Yeah. So all that's doing is knocking off the shellac and all the resin fibres. As you can see, it looks like the same colour more or less now. A little bit of lustre from some oil, and that will actually look just the same as the original part of the stock. All the way using my fingers as sensors to find out where any transitional bumps and lumps might still be. This is why you see gunsmiths constantly fondling guns. It becomes a sort of weird habit. But interestingly, this channel's been described as gun porn once or twice, which is interesting way of looking at things. Just hope that YouTube doesn't flag that as a questionable word. Yeah, I'm not going to perfect that edge because we'll probably grind onto it, and I don't want to burnish it down too much. Okay, so make sure there's no dust. Camera goes flying again. Right, so you will notice I use kitchen roll a lot. It's cotton based, and it's not much different from the French polishing, as long as you loosen it up a bit. French polishing methods of having wads and stuff like that, but I'm not actually French polishing in this case. While it might look like I am. This is grain sealer. Okay, so that is shellac grain sealer. That needs to be allowed to dry. This is the patient part, because I can't literally change the job. So I'm on this job now until I do it. So it has to be done. I have to leave it now again, a bit longer, see where it goes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just try a little bit of alkanet oil on that. See if that makes a difference first. Bearing in mind at this stage, anything is reversible. So, going for the alkanet oil, which if I can find it, I think it's rather thick in my pot at the moment. So I suppose I better tell you about alkanet oil. Right, so this is a root, which is sort of like, I've got a purpley colour to it. And this is a rather thick old jar, dropper bottle of it. Every now and again I add a bit more linseed. As you can see, it's thickening up. Right, so it's got that lovely colour. Now this is slightly more yellowy in its perspective, so I'm not thinking any dye would be worth having, but probably some alkanet, perhaps. Yeah, there's a little bit of a tonality to this. Right, I'm going to have to get going on this. Yeah, it's not going to work. It still looks pale there. Touch of alcohol to get rid of that. Thin it down, remove it, whatever. See what I did there? It'll still nourish because it's linseed based. Just got to get it off. While it might look okay, to my eye, that's a little bit blonde looking there. So what I'm going to do is just, yeah, there, you can see it looks a bit yellowy. This is a bit more reddish brownish. So with that cloth, a bit of oil on it. The oil won't matter, don't worry. No fret. Just add a little dab of stain to that. Right, this has not been quite real time, but almost real time. You can see I'm putting stain on there. Need to warm up that slightly pinky blonde colour, and I think I'm a bit happier with that now. Still, I've managed to put a drop more on. Oops, sorry, camera. Only on the top bit that is dry you do this, otherwise it ends up marking up the rest of the stock as well. And of course, I've got to let that dry as well. Okay, so actually, interestingly, the presence of oil, which is often the case, has allowed me to burnish that up a little bit. And that's not even finished, but you barely would know it had been done, would you? Love it. I love this kind of work. Right, so I've got some sticky alkanet there. And a crusty drop of linseed. Put a bit of natural linseed on that just to feed the wood, as it's quite dry anyway, and we don't want any weird transitions where it's slightly glossier in other places. Now, as you can see, I've not touched anything other than the work I've been doing, and that's because I'm used to having to get these jobs done as quickly as possible. And all I'm doing is going to just get a little bit of oil on that. And in its wet state, it looks quite high gloss. It's not actually, it's still wet. I'm a bit croaky because obviously all the dust. Okay. So that is not a gloss finish. That is simply the oil. The whole stock has been oiled now. Apart from the checkering, I don't oil up the checkering unless I absolutely have to. Right, let's see what dirt is left on the stock. Using a bit more clean. As expected. With these oil finishes, less is more, for definite. So each coat you build up, there you go. Doesn't that look nice? Nourishes the wood, but you've got to take off the majority of it. You really do. So, looking good. So there's a couple of other bits that he needs doing too. My client wants a few more jobs done on it, but there you go, it does take it off too. That is all absolutely fine. There's a bit of dirt in there too, so as I think I've showed you on other videos, it is beneficial. Lovely. So just to illustrate, I have indeed taken off 1/2 inch, as you can see right there. You wouldn't Adam and Eve it though, would you? Lovely. He's done well here. Yeah, nice. Right, so I've just had a message back from my customer. Now you will see that the screw height is different there. There's not a lot to be done about that, and certainly I don't choose to change anything. But the reason I use a small screwdriver is that it doesn't give me friction going through the self-healing part of the pad. And on the Berettas they do self-center, obviously, because they've got some little raised bumps. Right, so this is the difference. So I push a big screwdriver in. It's a lot more grippy. Okay, so we are going to take this off and grind that down. And yes, I'm going to show it because so many of you have asked to see how it's done. So this is a short version, but I get it done for you. Need to mask this off. That's not rocket science either, because got that nice oil finish to protect. So obviously you set it just slightly back. Fold that down there. And done. So what I normally do is I'll put a couple of rings of that just in case I touch on, whoops, that newly oiled finish. Not letting me do it. Right, there you go. Okay, bearing in mind, you've seen what I've done to butcher this into size here, and the finish that you get, you would not know. That's why I don't really worry and I don't freak out. So some people cringe, but it is what it is. There you go. Going to grind this off. As is sometimes the case, you have to compromise in order to save money on the job for the customer. By the customer's direction, I must add, I've ground the existing pad, which means that there will be some difference on the edge. So I just roughened up the edge a little bit there, just so it looks a bit more like it. That is the base plate underneath the core foam. As you see, the foam is really quite effective. And on that little accent, because it's a black edition, I've just shaped that to fit as well. So I can't remember if that actually got recorded or not, but we'll see in the edit, won't we? So I will probably oil up the stock a little bit more as I do the other jobs required. Yeah, I think that'll do. Okay, so the next job on this black edition 690 trap is to establish. Now it says 3/4 and full according to this, but when I use the dial indicator, it actually reads 0.75 deflection over bore, the actual bore, and 0.9. Well, on the table that I prepared, you will be able to see that that is 7/8 or light full and full. So I'm going to have to start cracking out some of this. We're near enough there. On the adjustable reamers, and just put a bit of cutting fluid in there. Spin it up a little bit. Now this is where I find that I clash into the camera because the camera's too close and I'll have to adjust everything. Bound to be, isn't it? We'll see. Setting up the camera work is almost as... Oh no, I can just about do it. Just got to adjust that enough. Oops, it is close. I'm not going to lie. Right, somebody did comment to me while using bronze bushes on this. Well, it tapers, and oh, I can't find the, and with that there already, it's already tight, so there's no need for a taper because it's actually opening out, so it would be counterproductive anyway. Just trying to get this handle to fit better. There you go, that's it. So interestingly, this, I've not changed the dimensioning, I promise, now wants to go in, and obviously it's super slack in there. So although we're only talking fractions of a millimetre, this is the bigger of the two, which is set at a bigger. That would actually go in there, but still won't go in there. Interesting. And yes, we're back in the top barrel, doing the final cuts, having honed out the chrome. Just do standard cutting. As you know, this sounds really good. Okay, so in conclusion, stock reduced by 1/2 inch, looks absolutely fine. Barrels from virtually full to 1/4, and as it turned out, half. I contacted my client and I said, well, you've got the option if you want it. You can have 1/4 and 1/2, as these are superior steel proofed. He went, oh, that's a good idea, yeah. So these are now finished and honed. I don't know if you can see that. Honed there, you can see the honing quite easily there. And gun's good to go. Oops, flipping camera. Whack it with the butt of the gun. Right. So there we have it. A nice 4mm trap Black Edition 690 Beretta. Now set up for my client as a fixed choke sporter. Right, so I'm going to address, as I always do at the end of a video, the pros and cons of doing such work. Well, down here in Devon, there's not a lot of call for trap. So when a gentleman gets rid of a trap gun, for whatever reason, they quite often go for bargain prices. And this is the case here. All in, this gun, which would typically retail for £2,700 something pounds, brand new. This pre-loved, lightly used gun has come in at a total price, including the work, of £750. Yes, £750. And that is the reason it was done. There's no call for trap in this area. Sporting is very much alive and well. So sporting stock adjustment and sporting choke adjustment brings a gun that is in brand new condition, apart from a little mark there and a couple of other little marks, very, very small marks. The equivalent of a £2,700 gun. Even if you took the VAT off it, 20%, you know, you're still in a 2,000 plus mark, aren't you? So that's why we do these things, and that's why we do them, because that is the only reason that you could justify turning a nice trap gun into a sporter. It was a bargain to start with, and even with my wages on top, it still only comes in at £750. So that's it, guys. Until next time, thanks. See you again.